The widowed CEO reveals he funded his son's business after Waitress heard his opinion. On a brisk morning in New York City, the high-end cafe buzzed with chatter and clinking cups, but Robert Sinclair sat alone, lost in thought. The well-dressed CEO, known for his striking good looks and those piercing blue eyes that had charmed many, stared blankly at the espresso before him. It was his usual spot, a corner table where he could watch the world pass by. Yet, instead of the city's vibrant energy lifting his spirits, a thick veil of loneliness hung over him, as heavy as the coffee aroma swirling around. As he sipped his drink, memories of his late wife swirled in his mind like the steam rising from the cup. Moments spent together flooded his thoughts. Her laughter, the warmth of her hand in his. Now, every silence felt like an echo of her absence. Despite his towering success, a gaping hole carved by grief had taken residence in his heart. Across the room, Mia, a young waitress. I recently invested in my son's startup. This revelation hit Mia like a thunderclap. Robert Sinclair, the powerful man she'd regarded from afar, had an estranged son. The thought sent tremors through her. Curiosity gnawed at her, and a spark of defiance ignited in her chest. She approached Robert's table, her hands trembling slightly, betraying her nerves. "Mr. Sinclair," she began, her voice wavering, "I couldn't help but overhear your son's business. Is everything all right?" Startled, Robert met her gaze, those blue eyes revealing a flash of surprise, followed. He was not just a CEO. He was a father wrestling with his failure. "Maybe I could help," she ventured, excitement bubbling amidst her uncertainty. "I know a thing or two about building community around small businesses." His eyes softened for a moment, a brief glimmer of hope flashing across his face. But before Robert could respond, the cafe door burst open. A figure stepped inside, shaking off the cold, and suddenly the air thickened with tension. A woman, familiar and striking, scanned the room with an intensity that made everyone around them draw in a quiet breath. Robert stiffened, his expression morphing from curiosity to dread. "Is that who I think it is?" Mia wondered aloud, heart pounding in her chest. Who was this newcomer, and what storm was about to unfold in this moment tangled in fate? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without war. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The tension in the room was thick, almost suffocating. Sarah could feel her heart pounding in her chest, each beat echoing her dread. David was pacing, his face pale, eyes darting toward the door like a trapped animal. It was a small meeting space, but the air felt heavy, electric with unease. "Do you really think they'll come?" David asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "They have to," Sarah replied, her throat tight. She glanced at the clock. Time slipped by slowly. Each second crawled like molasses. Her mind raced, images of their plan tumbling over one another. They had worked too hard for this, too long. Suddenly, The door burst open with a force that made them both jump. A figure stood silhouetted against the light, breathing heavy. It was Jenna, her hair disheveled, cheeks flushed. "They're here!" she gasped, each word colliding with the next. Before Sarah could react, Jenna moved past her, urgency painting her movements. The trio was just about to take a breath of relief when a thunderous knock rattled the room. All three froze, eyes wide. "Open up!" a voice bellowed from the other side. The knock echoed again, louder this time, more demanding. Panic surged in Sarah's chest. "What do we do?" David asked, fear creeping into his tone. Jenna stepped up to the door, her resolve hardening. "We face them," she said, conviction oozing from her. She turned the handle, taking a deep breath. As the door creaked open, the atmosphere shifted. Sarah stood back, a heavy sense of foreboding pulling her deeper into dread. Then they burst in. It wasn't just one person, but a group. 4 men, dressed in black, faces obscured. They stormed the room like a wave, drowning everything in a swell of chaos. "Where is it?" one of them demanded, eyes like knives. The others fanned out, searching every corner, each movement punctuated by thuds and shouts. Tension knotted tighter in Sarah's stomach. Jenna stuttered, "I don't know what you're talking about." But her voice cracked, betraying her fear. A sudden sound cut through. Something metallic striking the floor. A gun. David eyed it, terror painted across his face. Before Sarah could even grasp the implications, a loud crash reverberated, silencing all. The intruders stopped, eyes darting toward the sound. And then, from behind the men, a figure emerged. Someone familiar. It was Emily. "Stop!" she shouted, vibrant against the chaos. The room swirled into silence. But it wasn't just that she was there. It was the expression on her face. Anger mixed with something more profound. Something unsettling. "Emily, you don't have to do this." Jenna's voice trailed off. Emily raised her hand, signaling the men. To Sarah's horror, a faint smile crept onto her lips. "Don't you see? This isn't what you think," Emily said, her voice icy. "I've been waiting for this moment." Stunned disbelief rippled through the room. Sarah felt her mind spinning. Was this betrayal? A nightmare unfolding before their eyes? "You've been playing us this whole time?" David asked, sheer disbelief resonating in his voice. Emily's smile widened, dark and chilling. "I had to. For the greater good." As the shock settled, an explosion of questions surged. Her betrayal ripped into their fragile trust. Before they could react, she nodded to the men, and in a swift motion, everything cracked. Sarcasm transformed into violence. Everything blurred as chaos erupted once again. A scream pierced the air. Sarah stumbled backward, heart racing, mind whirling. The world around her spun until all she could feel was confusion. What had just happened? People she trusted turned against them. The door slammed shut behind them, leaving her gasping for breath, desperate to understand what was real anymore. Sarah stumbled backward, her heart racing, trying to grasp the chaos unfurling in front of her. Emily's dark grin sent chills down her spine. The men moved closer, their presence menacing, an impending storm ready to break. "Why, Emily? Why do this?" Jenna's voice quivered, disbelief coating her words. Emily stepped forward, words dripping with venom. Because you were too naive to see the truth. This isn't just about you or your pathetic little lives. It's bigger than that. Her eyes twinkled with a fervor that felt both eerie and thrilling. David shook his head, panic flashing across his face. Bigger? What are you talking about? But before Emily could respond, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room. The door swung open, revealing a shadowy figure, unfamiliar yet hauntingly recognizable. It was Mark, Sarah's estranged brother, the black sheep of the family. "Get down!" he shouted, urgency pouring from him. In an instant, the energy shifted. The intruders froze, their attention snapping to Mark. He rushed into the center of chaos, eyes darting, scanning faces before landing on Emily. "You shouldn't be here," he barked, his hands trembling slightly. "What do you think you're doing, coming here like this?" Emily's demeanor shifted, tension tightening her voice. Sarah's mind raced. Mark hadn't been part of their plans, hadn't even been part of her life for years. Her brother was a wild card. She braced herself. "What do you know?" "Everything," Mark replied, voice steady despite the fear flickering in his eyes. "I didn't know Emily was involved, but I know why they're here." The group of men bristled, anger swirling like a tempest. One stepped forward, eyes narrowing into slits. "You've got 5 seconds to get out of my way, or things will get ugly." Mark didn't budge. "If you're looking for the files, you won't find them with her. I have them." Shock rippled through the room, thick and heavy. Sarah felt a tightness in her chest. "What files?" She exchanged a bewildered glance with David. "You're lying!" Emily spat, fighting to maintain control. "Am I?" Mark smirked, a glint of mischief dancing in his eyes. "I'm here to protect my sister. You thought you were playing everyone, but you've got no idea who's really in charge." Suddenly, everything unraveled. The men, once intimidating, now shifted, confusion breaking their collective facade. "Get the files!" one of them barked, but the command faltered in the tension. "What files?" Sarah burst out, voice rising with urgency. She felt her pulse quickening. "Mark, what is going on? What are you involved in?" Mark's expression darkened. "You don't understand. They're not just after money. They're targeting our family, because of our father." A thick silence enveloped them. Every breath felt sharper, laden with revelations. "Our father?" Sarah echoed, disbelief coloring her tone. Mark took a step closer, gathering courage. Yes, secrets he couldn't keep. "Not just for our family, but for many others!" And Emily, she knew. Emily recoiled, eyes wide, fury masking fear. "You're out of your mind!" In that moment, a loud bang sounded outside, like a gunshot, shattering the fragile tension. The window shattered, glass raining down like a storm. Shouts erupted from outside, mingling with the mounting chaos. "Run!" Mark yelled, urgency boiling over. "They'll come for you too! We need to move!" Panic surged as fear ignited each pulse. Everything felt surreal. Emily was suddenly the enemy, and Mark was somehow entwined in all this darkness. The walls seemed to close in, leaving Sarah gasping for air, caught between loyalty and betrayal. "Is this real?" she thought desperately. Another gunshot rang out, the echo consuming her thoughts. As the group scrambled towards the exit, her heart raced. What did it all mean? Secrets, betrayal, and a family she thought was broken for good. Now, everything tilted, life unraveling. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that deeper truths were clawing their way to the surface, and as they fled, she realized just how far the lies had stretched, and how much danger they were truly in. Sarah couldn't catch her breath. The chaos continued to whirl around her like a storm. The pang of panic felt sharper than before. Mark was here. So much was unraveling. "Mark, what files?" she demanded, the urgency spilling from her voice. David's eyes darted between them, fear crackling like the air around them. As Mark opened his mouth to reply, a loud crash echoed through the hallway. Glances shifted toward the noise. "What now?" Jenna gasped. Mark took a step back, hands raised. "Stay behind me," he shouted, shielding them instinctively. The men in black moved, their mission alive in their eyes. One of them pulled out a device, fingers flying over buttons with urgency. "This is your last chance," he growled. "What's happening?" Sarah shouted, her heart pounding like a drum. Before Mark could answer, the ground beneath them trembled. A massive explosion of sound bursting through the air. The lights flickered violently, then went dark. Panic struck like lightning. "Get down," a voice bellowed. A flash of red light illuminated the room, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Then, silence. It was a thick, suffocating silence that swallowed all sound. "What was that?" David's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. In the sudden darkness, a wave of fear washed over the group. Sarah turned to Mark, but he was gone. Where did he go? She blinked, confusion clawing at her. "Mark, where are you?" A figure stumbled back into the dim light. Sarah gasped. It was Emily, her expression unreadable. "They're coming," she cried, eyes wide with dread. "Emily?" Jenna stammered, uncertainty trailing. "What is going on? Are you okay?" But in her frenzy, Emily looked different, almost feral. "We have to move, now!" she urged. But as she spoke, her voice cracked. Suddenly, Mark emerged again, pushing through the shifting shadows, his eyes dark with determination. "They've got the place rigged. We have to escape, and we need the files." "Files? What files?" Jenna's voice shook. "They're on my laptop. I hid it, but—" His words trailed off, his expression faltering. "Hidden? Mark, how could you be so reckless?" Sarah exclaimed, annoyance battling with fear as they shifted closer to electronic chaos. But before Mark could reply, he turned toward the door, eyes widening in horror. "No, they reached it!" The walls vibrated again as another blast shattered a window. Instinctively, they ducked, the air heavy with the scent of smoke. And then everything fell silent. Too silent. The group exchanged panicked glances, trying to gauge the atmosphere. "Is this it? Are we even safe?" David dared to whisper. But Mark, looking more haunted than ever, took a step forward. "You don't know the truth," he said softly, voice trembling. "You shouldn't have come here. They want more than just the files." Suddenly, with a gut-wrenching snap, the door behind them burst open. A powerful figure stepped in, silhouetted against the flickering emergency lights. Surprise, everyone! It was their father. Sarah's heart stopped. They had long believed he was gone. Soft whispers of grief promised to bury the past. Seeing him now, tall and stoic, left her gaping in disbelief. "Dad? How?" she stammered. barely able to muster the strength to form the words. He raised a hand, cutting through their questions. "There's no time. All of you need to come with me. The truth is darker than you can imagine." As shock settled in the room, Sarah felt the world spin off its axis. Everything she knew began to crumble. "Darker?" Emily echoed, eyes narrowing. "What does that even mean?" But their father merely gave a sad smile, his eyes filled with a deep pain. "It means I wasn't the man you thought I was, and I've been trying to protect you all." The air thickened with disbelief. Every heartbeat echoed in silence. "Protect us from what?" Mark demanded, rising to his feet. Then, in a flash, the red light flickered again, revealing something behind their father, a hidden device blinking ominously. "What have you done?" Sarah pleaded, the lump in her throat tightening. "I've done what I had to," their father replied softly, eyes filled with regret. "But it's time you understood everything." The blast they heard was not just outside, it was inside, and it was meant for them. Everything they believed unraveled in that instant, leaving them standing at the brink of a horror they could never have imagined. Sarah felt as if the world had spun off its axis. The sight of their father, the man they thought was lost forever, sent shockwaves through her body. Confusion clouded her mind. "Dad, how can this be happening?" He took a deep breath, his eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions, sorrow and determination wrestling for dominance. "There's no time to explain everything," he urged, desperation cracking his voice. "But you need to trust me. I'm back to protect you." "Protect us from what?" Mark asked, stepping forward, fists clenched. The tension in the air thickened like fog. The men in black shifted uneasily, their expressions revealing uncertainty. Just then, Emily let out a harsh, derisive laugh. "Protect us? After all this time, you show up with these spikes of secrets, and you think we should believe you?" Her voice dripped with disdain, slicing through the mounting tension. Before their father could respond, a loud crash erupted behind them. The door splintered, and figures masked in darkness poured in, their intentions palpable. "Get them!" one shouted. The urgency was tangible, choking the air. Mark shoved Sarah behind him, eyes darting around. "Run!" he yelled, panic lacing his voice. But just as they turned to escape, a blinding flash of light engulfed the room. A flashbang. The noise hit like thunder, drowning their senses in disorientation. Sarah staggered, heart racing, her ears ringing. Coughing, she fought through the confusion. As the smoke cleared, the unfamiliar figure at the door came into focus. A tall woman with fiercely determined eyes. It was David gasped, struggling to piece everything together. "Why would you want us?" "Because," Rachel snapped, "it's time you learned the truth about your family." There was a pause, a moment suspended in time, where every heartbeat echoed with dread. Everything you think you know, everything you've built, was part of a bigger scheme. Your father was only a pawn, and your lives have been a lie. At that moment, time fractured. The pieces fell into place like a terrible jigsaw of betrayal. Their father maintained a stoic demeanor, but Sarah watched as the storm inside him broke free. His expression hardened. "You're wrong. I would never." His voice faltered, the truth clawing at him. Suddenly, Mark's eyes widened. "You knew, didn't you? You knew what was unfolding, and you let it happen." He stepped closer, rage coiling tightly in his chest. Before their father could defend himself, Rachel continued, "He isn't just your father. He's the key to a massive conspiracy that intertwines with our businesses. The files aren't about your father alone. They're a map to the truth about all of us." Her words were like an electric shock, jolting the room into a deeper panic. Emily's face paled, and fear twisted into her features. "What truth?" she whispered, realization dawning. Just then, a deafening explosion rocked the building. The floor shook violently, sending everyone tumbling to the ground. The walls trembled as dust and debris rained down. In that chaos transformed into a race against time and trust. Amidst the wreckage and confusion, something glimmered through the haze. A black box, sleek and ominous, slid toward them. It beckoned with danger. "What is that?" Jenna shouted, terror lacing her voice. Everyone stared, frozen, as if recognizing something profound was about to unfold. "No, don't!" their father yelled, desperation flooding his voice. But the power of curiosity pulled Sarah closer. "We have to know!" As she reached for the box, a blinding light flashed one more time, and then darkness enveloped her. Sarah felt hands gripping her shoulders. There were shouts, panic, then nothing, only silence. When the light returned, everything shifted. She was standing in a room, dim and cold, people surrounding her, too familiar yet foreign. They gazed at her with eyes filled with terror and expectation. "Sarah," a voice trembled from the shadows, and she turned to see someone who made her blood run cold. A face she had never thought to see. "Mom?" The word slipped from her lips, heavy with disbelief. "Sarah, you need to understand." The pieces crashed down around her, shattered and scattered. The truth shifted and morphed like smoke. Nothing was as it seemed. In that frozen moment, a single question echoed in her mind. What had she stepped into? Sarah stood frozen, her heart pounding in disbelief as she stared at the woman before her. "Mom?" The word felt heavy, clinging to the air around them. Everything she thought she knew, the pain, the loss, came crashing down in an instant. She had been living under the weight of grief for years, but here was her mother, alive, looking right at her. "Sarah, please." Her mom's voice trembled, brimming with urgency. "You need to listen to me. There are things about our family you don't understand." "Like what?" Sarah's voice rose, a mix of anger and a desperate need for answers. The memories flashed through her mind, the empty space at the table, the quiet echoes of a life turned upside down when her father disappeared. "Everything you've been told is a lie," her mom replied, eyes darting nervously toward the chaos unfolding. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Your father isn't who you think he is. None of us are." Before Sarah could respond, the cool metallic device flickered to life on the ground between them. An alarming series of beeps filled the room, drawing startled gasps. Her mother's expression turned grave. "We have to get out of here, now!" Mark rushed over, his face a mask of confusion. "What's happening? Mom, are you really here? And what does that thing do?" Emily stood frozen, her mouth slightly agape, piecing the puzzle together in real time. Is that why you betrayed us?" she questioned, her voice tight with disbelief, eyes shifting between Sarah and their mother. I didn't betray anyone, Sarah's mom shot back, frustration slicing through her tone. I had to protect you from the truth, from your father's past. But just as she spoke, the lights flickered ominously. The beeping escalated, a rapid rhythm of impending disaster. They're coming! Her words echoed through the room like a bell tolling. The masked intruders outside moved through the chaos, voices muffled, but cutting through the tension like knives. They can't leave here with that! Find them! In a surge of urgency, Mark grabbed Sarah's hand. We need to go. Now! The explosive fear in his eyes mirrored her own. Not yet, Sarah yelled, refusing to let go of this moment. Mom, tell us, what do we need to know? What's in that box? As if on cue, the device emitted a high-pitched whine, erupting into a cacophony of blinding light that filled the room. Sarah felt the rush of panic swell inside her, the energy charging, crackling across her skin. It contains everything, her mom shouted over the noise, urgency lacing her voice. Evidence of who we are, who he is. It's tied to a larger conspiracy. Before she could finish her sentence, the device exploded with a blinding flash. The world around Sarah exploded, not just in light, but in the very air they breathed. Suddenly, in the smoke and chaos, shadows emerged, figures breaking through the haze. They weren't just the masked men. Sarah squinted into the light and felt her stomach drop. Names whispered in her mind. Faces she had long forgotten, but had been hunting her since she was a child. The unique emblem embroidered on their jackets ignited an undeniable fear. Trainers! Mark gasped, his face paling. How did they find us? Then it hit Sarah like a freight train, a realization so huge, so devastating. It pulled the ground from under her. They're not just here for us, she realized, voice trembling. They've always been watching us. They want that box for themselves. They want the evidence to erase us. Fear gripped her throat. Emily recoiled, shaking her head in disbelief. What do you mean, erase us? But with another explosive sound, the ceiling cracked. Dust rained down as the walls trembled. For a split second, their mother stood rigid, fear etched across her features. I'm so sorry, she whispered, voice breaking as she turned back to them. And for the first time, Sarah noticed the flicker of something deeper in her eyes, something heartbreaking. Just like that, the ground shook again. A thundering crash. Sarah's heart raced. The building was coming down around them. And then, with an act so unexpected and shocking, Sarah's mother whispered what would change everything. You're not just my daughter, Sarah. You're part of something bigger. Something they want to stop at all costs. You're a target. The air thickened as understanding dawned. Was her family hiding their true selves? What had they buried so deep, only to resurface now? Before she could ask more, a piercing scream echoed through the haze, pulling their attention to the door. Steel doors flung open, revealing a detachment of the masked men standing behind a wall of fire, blocking their way out. Get them! A commanding voice shouted, setting the stage for a confrontation. Sarah's breath hitched, her heart racing. Everything she thought she knew about her family, her life, it all hung by a thread, fracturing under the weight of secrets and lies. She stood trembling, caught in a whirlwind of betrayal and truth, with her mother's words echoing in her mind. A target. What would that mean for them all? The chaos erupted around them, But one question loomed larger than the rest. Could anyone be trusted now? The chaos erupted around them, shadows dancing dangerously close. The masked intruders moved like a well-oiled machine, closing in, ready to strike. Sarah's heart raced, thudding painfully in her chest. The air was thick with smoke and fear. She wasn't sure how much time they had. "Stay close," Mark shouted, gripping Sarah's arm. Emily huddled near them, eyes darting around the room for an escape route. Their father stood a little behind, uncertainty cloaking him like a shroud. "Why are you here?" Sarah demanded, her voice trembling with a mix of fury and disbelief. "You promised to protect us." "Protect you from what?" Their father shot back, anger rippling through his words. "You think I chose this life? I did it for you, for all of us." The desperation in his tone did nothing to reassure her. The tension tightened, and the blaring noise of alarms filled the room, mixing with the shouts of the intruders. "Get them! They can't leave!" Just then, an unexpected figure appeared in the doorway. It was Jenna, eyes wide, panic etched on her face. "I found a way out!" she shouted, urgency drenching every syllable. "Follow me!" Sarah felt a flicker of hope, but it dimmed as the masked men turned their focus to Jenna. "Stop her!" one ordered. The shouting racing toward Jenna. They heard shouts behind them, gunfire echoing through the air. The ground shook. Was that an explosion? Adrenaline surged as Sarah pulled Mark along, determination flooding her veins. Then, in one swift motion, everything changed. A man, dressed in black but different from the others, stepped in front of them, his eyes glinting with cold calculation. "You think you can run?" He grinned, raising a weapon. But Sarah's gaze was drawn toward the black box on the floor, glowing ominously. It had been harmless moments ago. Now it pulsed like a heartbeat, and yet it felt menacing. Then, in an instant, the box exploded, a flash of light so bright it seared into Sarah's vision. She shielded her eyes, but moments later, as the light faded, everything shifted. The scene that greeted her was beyond comprehension. The masked figures were gone. The walls around them faded, creating an empty void of space. She stumbled, grasping for something solid. Had they crossed into another realm? "Where are we?" Mark whispered, eyes wide, fear and confusion breaking through the haze. Then Sarah saw something, a figure emerging from the shadows, someone she never expected to see. It was her mother. "Mom?" Sarah's words came out in a breathless whisper. "How are you here? I thought—" But her mother raised a finger, silencing her. "Listen to me, Sarah. It's worse than you can ever imagine. I'm not just your mother. I'm part of this, and so are you." Her voice trembled. The realization sent shockwaves through Sarah. "What do you mean?" "Your father. He's not just your father. He's the mastermind behind everything. This wasn't just protection. It was a cover-up." The truth felt like gravel in Sarah's throat. Mark stepped back, disbelief swirling in his eyes. "No, that can't be. He loves us." "Love?" her mother echoed, a bitter edge in her voice. "Love is what led to this. Your lives were a facade, part of a game, a plan. But dark plan." Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled again. Sarah felt the air compress, panic grabbing her throat. "We need to leave!" she screamed. But as they turned to escape, A deafening roar filled the air. The shadows around them writhed, morphing into figures once more. This time, they weren't masked men. They were armed agents, faces revealed, filled with authority. "Time's up," one said, stepping forward, smugness radiating from him like a hard glare. "You can't escape the truth. You never could." In that moment, everything fractured. Sarah felt the weight of everything crashing down. Trust shattered. Relationships disintegrated. Her mother smiled, but it was a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You'll have to make a choice, Sarah. Join them or fight for yourself." Every word felt like a dagger. Sarah stood there, heart racing, mind spinning. What was real? What had she been protecting all along? Eruption after eruption of noise shook the tense atmosphere. They closed in, but Sarah could only think of one thing. What was her real identity? How could she face the horror of her family's legacy? As the agents advanced, a chilling laugh pierced the air. It was Rachel again. "Let's see how you handle the truth," she sneered. In the heart of chaos, Sarah realized there would be no way to escape unscathed. She was about to uncover not just secrets, but the truth about who everyone really was. And with that chilling realization, dread pooled within her, leaving only a heavy silence hanging in the balance. Sarah felt the world tilt, like the ground was falling away from beneath her. She had always thought she knew her family so well. Now, standing there with her mother's shocking confession ringing in her ears, everything unraveled. The agents loomed closer, their faces stern and unforgiving. "Time's up," one repeated, stepping forward. Sarah's heart raced as dread seeped into her bones. Where could they even go? "Mom, what do you mean you're part of this? What have you been hiding?" Her voice cracked, every word a plea. Mark clutched her arm tighter, confusion and fear churning in his eyes. Emily flicked glances between Sarah and their mother, caught between trust and disbelief. Just as chaos threatened to swallow them whole, something unexpected happened. A figure emerged from the shadows, gliding with an eerie precision. Sarah squinted into the dim light. It was Jenna, but something felt off. "Jenna?" Sarah breathed, her pulse racing. But this wasn't the Jenna they knew. This was someone different. "Oh, you think you're safe?" Jenna, no, the other Jenna, smirked, eyes glinting with mirth. "You've fallen right into the trap." "What are you talking about?" Sarah's voice trembled, rising above the confusion. The real Jenna looked just as lost, fear painting her features pale. The other Jenna stepped closer, waving a hand dismissively. "You poor thing, you have no idea what's really going on. Did you think it was all about that box? Your family? It's so much bigger, so much deliciously twisted." Mark shook his head in disbelief. "This isn't you, Jenna. What happened?" But the words went unheard. The fake Jenna pushed aside a panel in the wall, revealing a hidden door. "Follow me if you want the real story." Sarah's heart raced. This was a decision fraught with danger, yet the urge for answers pulled her. "What's behind there?" With a wicked grin, the other Jenna turned and vanished into the darkness beyond the door. At that moment, the reality of the situation pressed heavy. "Is this a trick?" Sarah whispered, anxiety lacing her words. "We can't trust her, Sarah," Mark said, desperation thick in his voice. But before they could argue, the thrumming pulse from the device on the floor suddenly stopped. The ground lurched, throwing everyone off balance. A loud bang echoed, followed by an urgent screech. Then the lights flickered back on, illuminating the hall. But something was different. There the agents had stood moments before. Only their dark silhouettes remained, shadows creeping away. The air felt electric. And right then, Jenna burst through the door again, dragging something or someone behind her. With a swift motion, she revealed a person bound and gagged. Shock washed over Sarah. "Meet your true enemy," the fake Jenna hissed, yanking the cloth away from the person's mouth. "This is who you've been protecting." The figure gasped for breath, wide eyes catching the harsh light. As the cloth fell, it revealed a face that sent shockwaves through Sarah. "Dad?" Her voice quaked, tears blurring her vision. "How? But it doesn't make sense." "Enough lies!" the other Jenna shouted, stepping back, a triumphant glimmer in her eyes. "Time to see how deep the rabbit hole goes." Sarah did the only thing she could in that moment. She lunged forward, heart racing in a swirl of rage and disbelief. Sarah, no! She's... Boom! The explosion rocked the building, knocking everyone off their feet. Dust and debris filled the air. The world erupted around them. When the chaos settled, Sarah found herself on the floor, heart racing furiously. She looked up, vision swimming, and realized something had shifted. The fake Jenna stood still, but the smile had faded. Dust settled like a heavy blanket. The air thickened with tension, the truth lingering just out of reach. "Welcome to the game," the fake Jenna said softly, but there was something almost sinister in her voice now. "You're more involved than you ever knew." As uncertainty blanketed the room, a single question burned brightly. Who was really in control of this tangled web they were trapped in? With her father across the room, horror clawed through Sarah. What had the real Jenna meant? And how far would they have to go to uncover the truth? Everything was shifting, and nothing was what it seemed. Sarah felt the weight of the moment crushing down on her. Here she was, face to face with her father, the man she thought was lost. Except now, everything felt wrong. The reality they faced spun like a tornado, tearing them apart. And then the other Jenna laughed, a hollow, mocking sound. "You think this is a reunion?" Her tone dripped with sarcasm. "Let's see how far the facade runs." Before anyone could react, she lunged forward. With a swift, decisive motion, she pressed a hidden button on the mystery box at their feet. In an instant, the room exploded with light. Blinding brilliance swallowed everything. Sarah shielded her eyes, confusion and terror clawing at her. She felt the world spin, the safety of reality slipping away. And then, silence. When the light finally faded, they found themselves standing in a different place. A vast, white chamber surrounded them, sterile and cold. The air felt heavy, damp. Panic surged as they scanned their surroundings. "Where are we?" Mark whispered, eyes darting around. "Not where, when," the other Jenna replied, her voice now eerily calm. "What are you talking about?" Sarah shouted, anger and fear mixing. But as if answering her, images began to materialize in the air around them, swirling like a broken film reel showing a haunted family. Figures moved through scenes of her childhood. birthday parties, family meals, laughter echoing, and then shadows appeared. Figures lurking in the corners, whispers filling the silence. "It's here," one said. "What the father hid will soon be found." "Stop!" Sarah shouted, heart racing. "This is wrong!" Then something shifted in the images. They morphed into a dimly lit room where her father and another man, familiar yet foreign, stood arguing fiercely. Sarah's breath hitched. "He can't know!" the man shouted. "We'll lose everything!" "Then we must act now. He's a liability," her father replied, voice firm. Suddenly, another image flashed. A woman with familiar features, standing with her arms crossed, eyes scorching with anger. It was her mother, but younger, indignant and filled with resolve. "You think you can hide it all? You're playing a dangerous game," she warned. "What game?" Mark muttered, gripping Sarah's arm tightly. Then the scene altered again, showing explosive flashes. Screams erupted from all sides, and in a horrifying revelation, Sarah watched as her father stood amidst the chaos, orchestrating it like a puppet master. "No, no!" Sarah's voice trembled. This can't be true, but it was undeniable. The reality before her shattered her every belief. Her heart raced, feelings of betrayal engulfing her. "You lied to us!" she screamed at the other Jenna, desperate for answers, her world crashing down. "Did you really think it was all a coincidence?" Jenna asked, a smirk flickering at the corner of her lips. "This is just the beginning." And just as fear twisted her stomach, the images around them shifted once more, revealing a shocking twist. The last scene erupted in a blinding light, then faded to black. When the light returned, they stood not in the White Chamber, but back in the cafe they had just left. The difference was chilling. The atmosphere was not just busy, a ghostly stillness hung over it. The patrons sat frozen, faces blank, no movement, no noise. "What's happening?" Jenna's voice trembled, her facade slipping. Then the real shock hit. A deep, rumbling laugh echoed through the cafe, chilling every spine. "You think this is your story?" There stood a figure, cloaked in shadows, its form twisting as if woven from darkness. "This is just a chapter." It was then that Sarah realized. A terrible truth clawed at her. The shadows were not just figures from her past. They were her true legacy. "Welcome to the real game," the figure continued, a malicious grin stretching across its face. "And here's the twist. You're not the lead. You're simply players in the game I created." As the ground trembled beneath them and the world fell silent once more, Sarah's heart stopped. In that moment, she knew everything had changed. What had she stumbled into? And who were they really? Nothing was what it seemed anymore, and the real game was only just beginning. The air crackled with tension, and Sarah stood frozen, mind racing. The shadowy figure smirked, a sinister twist to its lips. "Welcome to your reality." "Enough," Mark shouted, fists clenched. He pulled Sarah closer, grounding her in the chaos. "We're not part of your game." "You still think you can fight this?" the figure mocked, shadows dancing around it. "You've always been pawns in a much larger strategy." As the figure advanced, the cafe quaked. Dust and debris spiraled around them, echoes of their past haunting every corner. Jenna, the real one, gripped Sarah's arm, urgency illuminating her eyes. "We have to find a way out, now." But what about their father? He looked torn, guilt playing across his features as he gazed at Sarah. "I never wanted this. I wanted to protect you." "Protect us?" Sarah's voice trembled with disbelief. "By lying to us?" "Enough!" the figure roared, deepening the shadows. "This ends now!" In that instant, Sarah felt her father's anguish. Her heart raced. Was there still time? "Dad, do you trust us?" she asked, desperately hoping, searching for a glimmer of hope. "More than you know," he whispered, finally stepping toward her. The figure lunged, but in a blur of motion, Mark tackled it, their bodies crashing to the ground. "Go! I'll hold it off." Panic surged through Sarah. "No, you can't!" But Mark held tight, determination etched on his face, urging them. "Get out! I'll be right behind you!" Grabbing Jenna's hand, they sprinted toward the back door, the world collapsing around them. Shadows flickered, grasping at their heels. They burst through, tumbling into an alley thick with shadows. "Which way?" Jenna gasped, looking around frantically. "Anywhere but here!" Sarah shouted, feeling the ground thrum beneath her. The sounds of chaos faded as they ran deeper into the night. They barreled through the winding streets, hearts pounding in unison. "I can't believe this is happening," Jenna panted, out of breath but filled with purpose. "Neither can I," Sarah responded, wiping the sweat from her forehead. But as they paused momentarily, she heard something, a faint rumble in the distance. The tension in her chest tightened. "We need to keep moving." But they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Uncertainty gnawed at her. What if Mark doesn't make it? "He will," Jenna vowed, a fierce light igniting in her gaze. "He's strong." As they rounded a corner, a familiar voice called out from the shadows. It was Mark, emerging from the darkness, breathless but alive. Relief washed over them. "I was close behind. I knew I could find you." "I was worried," Sarah exclaimed, her heart easing slightly. "Let's go. We don't have much time," Mark urged, determination sparkling in his eyes. They sprinted into the heart of the city, neon lights piercing the darkness. But still, fear lurked, uncertainty weaving through their minds like a ghost. As they reached a secluded park, the victory felt hollow. "What just happened?" Mark whispered, voice thick with disbelief. Sarah closed her eyes, piecing it all together. "We need to uncover the truth. No more lies." The decision hung heavy in the air, but she felt a spark of hope amidst the fear. Maybe this was their chance. And as they took a breath, the city buzzed with life around them, each sound a reminder that the past didn't define their future. Together, united, they could face whatever was next. But just as they turned to leave the park, Sarah glanced back. Shadows crept closer, a whisper echoing in the wind, a chilling promise that their story wasn't finished. The game wasn't over. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support by mashing that like button now. Let's feed the algorithm with your enthusiasm. Don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this outcome. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with these actions.